Hello, my name is Ababa Nagash. I'm speaking today on behalf of Ethiopian Hearts for Peace and African Hearts for Peace. My speech today contains my personal immigration journey, corruption patterns in African political systems, human rights abuses and ethnic incitement in Ethiopia, displacement, mass killings and mass burials, U.S. responsibility when its strategic interest in power abusive actors, the broken refugee system, the Somali community challenges in Minnesota, legal frameworks for accountability, anti-corruption and human rights tools already in U.S. law, and the need to distinguish between legitimate refugees and abusive elites, the need to investigate abuses of foreign aid, including USAID channels. This is a compassionate, non-political tone that's aligned with Ethiopian Hearts for Peace and African Hearts for Peace. This is a call for justice without attacking groups or individuals by name. So here you go. This is a comprehensive framework for justice, accountability, and refugee protection. Again, we are calling for accountability and refugee protection. And this can be a personal appeal from an African immigrant and a refugee who come through pain. So you may ask why I speak and why it matters. I speak today not as a politician, not as an academic, and not as someone seeking attention or power. I speak as an African, as an Ethiopian, and as a person who come to the United States the hard way, the way of truth, the way of fear, the way of pain, and the way of hope for survival. Let me remind you, decades ago, I was in prison in a third country I migrated to simply because of this corruption. I had no option to leave my own country. I was shot. I speak today as someone who has lived through conflict, displacement, and instability. I speak as someone who left behind the graves of loved ones, the cries of my people, and the ruin of a country I still pray for every day. I speak as someone who entered the US with empty hands, but an honest story. This message is not an attack on any community or nationality. It's a plea for justice, accountability, and dignity. For Americans, for Africans, and especially those who did not have a chance to flee the violence that consumed their homes. I speak because I believe that clean immigration systems, strong accountability, and truthful evaluation of foreign actors ultimately protect everyone, Americans and immigrants alike. And I speak because I have seen a pattern that deeply harms those of us who fled honestly. This is because corrupt officials from conflict zones living comfortably in the US, individuals who incited ethnic hatred escaping justice, perpetrators of abuses melting into immigrant communities, people with unexplained wealth purchasing homes in cash here in US and Europe, and sometimes in Gulf states. Young African refugees overshadowed by the actions of elites who cause harm back home. Now they come to live besides us in the US. That's not acceptable. I work hard to earn my living. They come and pay cash for their homes, for their cars, and living expenses. Meanwhile, real refugees, people who escaped death, torture, starvation, and persecution, face endless background checks, delayed refugee interviews, lack of prioritization, and often a lifetime of physiological trauma or psychological trauma, I would say. In this day, it is my attempt to lay out a comprehensive legal and moral framework that helps the United States. This is home now. I will identify genuine refugees more fairly, hold accountable corrupt power holders from conflict regions, prevent entry of individuals involved in serious human rights abuses, investigate foreign wealth flowing into the U.S., examine misuse of American foreign aid, and strengthen national and community safety. Again, this is home, my children's home. I left my beloved country. So here is my journey. A refugee from Ethiopia who came through truth, not power. My immigration to the United States was not easy. I did not come as a diplomat or a political figure or a beneficiary of a foreign government. I did not come with support from any embassy. I did not come with wealth, connections, or protection. I come because my life was at risk. My life. My colleagues were all killed. So the conflict around me made survival impossible. And I carried the fear that one day I would be killed simply for who I am, an Amhara, an Orthodox Christian, or where I was born, the region. I stood before immigration office I remember, with trembling hands, trauma still fresh in my body, and a heart full of truth. My bone was broken. My flesh was torn by a knife used, and a bullet passed through my skin. Every detail of my story was examined. Every risk had to be proven. I waited, prayed, feared, and hoped. While in prison in a month, I was brought to the United States. I didn't believe it. So I came through the right door. It took me 4 years. The door meant for refugees. This is why today it breaks my heart to see the U.S. immigration system manipulated by individuals who held powerful positions in Africa, were part of oppressive structures, enabled or ignored human rights abuses, looted public funds, enriched themselves while their people starved, and then escaped to the U.S. to live comfortably, quietly, unnoticed. To some extent, I'm so glad this administration takes the stick to punish, to clean. Because when I see them driving luxury cars, buying homes in cash, or enjoying a peaceful life while the people they harmed continue to suffer, it reopens a wound that has never fully healed. I do not blame America. I do not blame the communities. I blame the lack of accountability, both at home and abroad. And I speak because I believe cleaning the U.S. immigration system is necessary, not only for fairness, but for national security, community safety, and global justice. Again, United States again is my home, my children's home. I am equally concerned about U.S. immigration system. Let me tell you the pattern of corrupt officials and ethnic inciters fleeing to the U.S. I could name them, but the US has a stringent law defaming. The truth is, across Africa, Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, South Sudan, Nigeria, DRC, Uganda, etc., a repeated tragedy unfolds. This is simply because officials engage in corruption, repression, or ethnic incitement. They hold powerful positions, make inflammatory speeches, misuse public money, or help armed groups involved in atrocities. This is also true because of conflict erupts, civilians pay the price. Ordinary citizens suffer massacres, displacement, starvation, and mass disappearance. To those of you who are listening, Americans who value women equality at most know that women being raping a woman and children is normalized. And those officials who are conducting these atrocities are waiting to come to United States too. This is because the officials flee. When political winds shift, those same power holders surrender their uniforms, leave office quietly, obtain visas under professional or political categories. I don't know how they come, but they flee to the West. Many arrive in the United States through special work visas that I know. Political channels, their connections. Is this really United States foreign policy, foreign interest? They first send their families, and their family establish themselves, and then they establish family connections, or by presenting themselves as victims rather than perpetrators. Where is the US immigration filtration system here, brothers and sisters? And then they live comfortably, sometimes even influencing diaspora communities. Again, they buy homes in cash. It takes 30 years for ordinary refugee or immigrant to own a home or to go to school. They start businesses. They continue pushing propaganda. They deny responsibility for the suffering they helped create. Guess what? Even when the conflict is unfolding, those corrupt officials' kids are in the prestige schools, and their school fee is paid in cash. Their daily expenses, including housing, all paid in cash. This is a blood money, like blood diamond. Meanwhile, their victims, people like me, had to fight for survival and come with nothing. If they manage, others drown. Some in sand dune, they drown. Their bones buried under the sand or crushed by subsea creatures. Let me get back to Ethiopia. Ethnic incitement and its deadly consequences. Ethiopia has seen countless tragedies rooted in ethnic rhetoric from many sides. These arise because of US interest in getting rid of the communist regime. So they use ethnic violence as a means to get rid of the former regime, Mengistu Haile Mariam's regime. So across regions, the same thing. Inflammatory speeches have led to mass displacement. It's still happening. Prove me wrong. ethnic cleansing, killings of civilians, mass burials within days, hundreds of thousands forced to flee their homes, communities erased within weeks, deep trauma that will last generations. Go and check Tigray regions, Amhara regions, and none Oromos in Oromia today. We have seen individuals in positions of authority refer to specific ethnic groups as outsiders. The perfect example is Walaga, now in Sidama, and RC, all for their removal from certain regions. And the Orthodox Christians also being blamed for being backward, and they are being hunted down. All of this justify forced displacement through televised and public speeches. And those people who did that are here in the US seeking asylum. Some of them are rewarded with permanent residency. All of what they did is to create the conditions for ethnic mobs or organized forces to commit atrocities. They should be held accountable. Because the result, entire district emptied, villages burned, mass graves filled with days, mothers search for missing children, millions displaced. Let me tell you another truth. The dogs, the cats, the hen, they all become like wild animals when entire district emptied. I could, but I do not need to name individuals here. The US immigration system knows them exactly whom I'm referring to. It simply was ignored. The pattern is well known to Ethiopian communities worldwide. And yet, many who contributed to this destruction now live peacefully abroad. This is not justice. This is the same all over Africa. The same. Name one country that doesn't have this ethnic problem or religious problem. Division one goes to another. The elites are here in the United States. Let me get into the Somali communities in Minnesota. A reflection of a larger systemic failure. Minnesota's Somali community is one of the strongest, most vibrant communities in the country. They have built businesses, become doctors, joined the military, contribute to the economy, and raise beautiful families. But they have also faced criminal networks preying on youth. Some young men are targeted by organized groups exploiting vulnerabilities. Identity theft scams, fraudulent benefits networks, influence from overseas clan divisions, extremist recruitment attempts in early years. Oh, my brothers and sisters, these imported clan tensions has come to United States too, in Europe too. Clan rivalries and political tensions from Somalia are sometimes recreated in local settings. Inside community organizations, in mosques, in social gatherings, in online discussions, in disputes that escalate unnecessarily, instead of assimilating to the black or to the white clan, if you say, or ethnic groups. They hold themselves together, but within them they have these clan rivalries. Unnecessary, totally unnecessary. And their problem also goes back home as a diaspora. they destabilize a country that can be stable. So yes, this administration is conducting, although I do not agree fully the way how it is being handled, the immigration system has to be revised. Because there are public safety incidents that stain the whole community. When a few individuals commit crimes, the entire community is unfairly labeled. Because I didn't have any country to go back to, I had to adjust myself to my new home. Learn English, do the hard work, earn earnest money. By the way, the problem is not the Somali people, please. The problem is that the immigration system does not distinguish adequately between a genuine refugees escaping war and hunger and elites, criminals, or opportunists who come using loopholes or unchecked pathways. You see, crime doesn't have any clan, any ethnic group or race, gender. When systems do not vet properly, innocent communities pay the price. That's exactly what's happening in Minnesota. This can happen to any African communities residing in the United States. So, African diasporas, African refugees who came with a value paid must protect themselves by letting authorities know who is hiding in the United States under broad light. And when systems crack down on the community, rather than targeting individuals involved in wrongdoing, trust is destroyed. And honest families live in fear. That's why they come out in defense of their community. ICE or the US government must be careful, because we're citizens as well, legally here, legally established our life. We live like American. We follow the same rule of law. This is why responsibility must fall on the immigration system, not on the communities themselves. Because I look like Ethiopian, or somebody look like Somali, somebody look like Nigerian, or any African, they should not be held for questioning. This is why real refugees suffer when abusive actors exploit US immigration. I don't care what you say, what you think. Every time a corrupt official enters the US freely, an honest refugee faces a greater burden. We could go in a revenge killing because the pain is that much worse, but we are bound by US laws. We cannot do anything. We are like mortal enemies with those who abused us back home, our birthplace, and forced us to flee. Every time a corrupt official enters the US freely, an honest refugee faces a greater burden because stricter screenings are imposed, refugee interviews are delayed, suspicion increases, resources get stretched, communities face stigma, and political opponents of accountability claim immigrants are the problem. This is unfair, because real refugees should not suffer because abusive elites manipulate the system. Investigate those Americans who conducted business of politics or war in countries of conflict. They aided those elites who come today to kill their own people. to displace your own people, to commit the worst atrocities you can imagine. And because they help United States. Is it really what United States want in conflicts in Somalia, Ethiopia, or elsewhere, or in Afghanistan? There has to be a moral responsibility of the United States. The United States is not responsible for every conflict in Africa. That I know. That's clear. But its foreign policy plays a significant role. There are times when the US supports the wrong leaders, funds abusive security forces, prioritizes geopolitical interests over human rights, sends foreign aid that is stolen by corrupt networks, forms partnership with individuals who later turn to repression, equips governments without sufficient oversight, closes its doors to the victims of the very conflict it indirectly strengthened. This is not intentional harm, though. It is an unintended consequence of global politics. But when such harm occurs, the United States has a moral responsibility to offer protection, refugee, accountability, and justice to those who suffer because of decisions made at the geopolitical level. You want my land back home where I was born? There you have it, I'm here. Where will I go now? So not all immigrants are to blame. Not all communities here to blame. Not all of us are really ready to forget where we come from. We have our own religion, culture, language, and so forth. But we try to assimilate. As an African immigrant, there are differences to really get involved in African, real African, I don't know how I can put it, unless I say black or something, because not all Africa is black as well, to the community who was here before us. It takes time. But our children know who they are. They are Americans. They should not suffer at the consequences. So I want the US policy makers to know that there are legal frameworks the US already has and should enforce. 1. Immigration and Nationality Act. Human Rights Abuses. INA 212A, Section 3E. The US can deny entry or deport individuals involved in genocide, extrajudicial killings, forced disappearance, torture, recruitment of child soldiers, mass displacement. These applies to many actors from conflict zones across Africa. Whether the United States is fighting a global geopolitical war because it supports one ideology over the other or not, atrocities have been committed and those elites must be held accountable. Should not be given a safe haven when the political wind shifts. 2. INA 212 sections A3C talks about significant corruption. This allows visa denial for officials involved in major corruption, misappropriation of public funds, abuse of power, money laundering. There is this legal means. And a lot of US officials know there are elites hiding in the United States under false pretexts. 3, there is also a global Magnitsky Act that permits freezing of assets, visa bans, sanctions on any foreign official involved in corruption or human rights abuses. 4, there is also Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020 that investigates cash purchase of real estate. Please emphasize on this. Large unexplained transfers, shell companies hiding foreign funds, criminal proceedings stored in U.S. banks. 5, there is also Foreign Assistance Act, and Lee law that prohibits U.S. aid going to abusive forces, funding being provided to corrupt elites or entities, contractors or intermediaries misusing USAID money, and so forth. These laws also allow investigation into U.S. officials who knowingly approved aid to abusive partners, foreign intermediaries who diverted funds, NGOs involved in mismanagement, be it at the United Nations level, African Union, or just a country, a state. Because they say they support U.S. national interest, it doesn't mean that they have not committed crimes to let them back in. What about us? 6, Refugee Convention. The Refugee Convention and CAT. That protects real refugees fleeing, just like me. Persecution, war, torture, starvation, displacement, state collapse, and so forth. So here is a policy framework for cleaning the U.S. immigration system. If you are U.S. policymaker, I would like to point this out. As an American, 1, strengthen vetting of political elites from conflict zones. See, U.S. immigration should flag unexplained wealth, cash property purchases, political or security leadership roles during periods of mass violence, documented inflammatory ideological speech, and sudden lifestyle upgrades after leaving office. 2, distinguish between victims and perpetrators. Refugee systems should prioritize families displaced by conflict, survivors of atrocities, persecuted minorities, people living in refugee camps, and increase scrutiny on former officials, whether they have been aligned with the United States or not. They are criminals. These are like intelligence agents, regional administrators, militia leaders, individuals accused of ethnic incitement. All of those must be distinguished between victims and perpetrators. My other suggestion, 3rd, is investigate financial corruption. Taxpayers' money is going to third world country, I don't know how you call it, Africa. I say to you, law enforcement should track foreign bank transfers, real estate holdings, shell companies, luxury purchase inconsistent with salary history, and also need to expand community protection programs. Who are you to tell us, please? Don't say that. United States still should provide support for communities like Somali Americans, Ethiopian Americans, South Sudanese Americans, Eritrean Americans, and so on, so they are not collectively blamed for the crimes of a few. Their children someday will be in the army. Some will go up to Congress, whether they have a different ideology or not. Diversity in the United States is real, and we are the segment of that diversity. Who is not immigrant in America cannot be debated. History can be written by those who won. So we can see we all are immigrants. Some forcibly immigrated here. Anyways. At number 5, U.S. should strengthen accountability for USAID funded projects. Accountability. Whether you shut it down now or not. There has to be independent auditors that should evaluate aid misuse by foreign governments. U.S. officials who ignored corruption, those officials are the connections to let those foreign government officials come to United States. Simultaneously, NGOs that diverted funds also should be investigated. And also contractors that overbilled or failed to deliver American taxpayer money should be also held accountable for those kind of funded projects. In conclusion, this is a personal plea for justice, dignity, and a clean system. I'm not supporting a particular political group or entity, say the president or not. I love America. This country gave me safety when I had none. I was in prison 1 meter by 1 meter. Go check it out. Luzira Prison by Lake Victoria. This country gave me safety when I had none. That's the truth. It gave me peace when my homeland was burning. It gave me the chance to rebuild a life that was nearly destroyed. But I can see those very people who caused me this harm come to United States. Their children lavishly live. I speak today not to criticize the United States, but to help it uphold its highest values. I speak because I believe real refugees deserve protection. Corrupt elites deserve accountability. Communities deserve safety. And America deserves a clean immigration system that reflects justice. I speak because those who suffered deserve to be heard, not overshadowed by those who caused suffering and then fled. I speak because my heart remembers the graves, the mass burials, the displacement, the fear, and the long path to safety. I speak because I want a world where Africans no longer flee their homes, not because they do not love their country, but because their country must finally love them back. And I can be that bridge. So United States will not invest or take over anything through force, corruption, or what have you. I speak because I have hope. Not political hope, not ethnic hope. It's a human hope. Hope for justice, hope for accountability, hope for truth. Hope for a future where refugees are protected, communities are safe, and corrupt power holders can no longer hide behind wealth and distance. This is my plea. This is my truth. This is my responsibility as a survivor and as a citizen of a country I now call home, the United States. Thank you very much. This is Bebe Nagash, Michigan, United States.